believe that there is a government, but the government is there for a few basic purposes: to keep us safe, to keep people from harming each other. But we can't have a government that just gives everything to everyone, because there isn't enough money for it. My wife and I wrote a book a couple years ago called The Case Against Socialism. And people are like, well, doesn't everybody know how terrible socialism is? Well, you would think. But the kids these days either aren't being taught it or don't get it. You know, who's Stalin? I don't think they remember. Who's Hitler? Who's Mao? Here's how bad it is. Mao, 45 million people were starved under Mao because of government policy. The head of Black Lives Matter, she just bought her $4 million home. Apparently she's worried about the riffraff, so while she doesn't want a wall on the southern border, she's building a wall around her $4 million home. But she was doing an interview on the internet. A young woman comes up and they're just giggling and laughing, and the young woman says, "Oh, your book, I love your book. Your book reminds me so much of Mao's Little Red Book." Mao printed up billions of them. This little red book talking about his socialism, the plan that killed 45 million people. You had to carry them or you were beaten if you couldn't show you had your little red book when you walked around in China. Well, they're giggling over how great it is to be compared to Mao. And it's like, if you were giggling over your enthusiasm for Mao, you're either evil or ignorant of history. You know, you're one or the other. There really isn't a choice. But our generation of young people need to know that socialism is not benign. They're trying it in Venezuela right now. They've destroyed the currency. Venezuela has more oil underground than Saudi Arabia, but they're destroying the country, destroying the currency. In our book, we tell the story of a 16-year-old girl who's in a gang, and their territory they're guarding is 4 dumpsters outside of restaurants to get scraps of food. They're eating their pets in Venezuela. Socialism doesn't work. We've got to figure that out. And people say, oh, but what about greed in America? Well, guess what? Capitalism and self-interest in America has allowed the poorest among us to be richer than the middle class in almost every country around the world. You've been to Afghanistan. The average income in Afghanistan is about $800 a year. Very few people have cars. I mean, you want to, people, I forget who it was, somebody was watching this chaos and thinking about the Taliban taking over, and they were like, yeah, we're always talking about oppression in our country. Go see what they're going to get to live under in Afghanistan.